One of the most important steps towards the exploration of space is by far the development of the much-anticipated SpaceX Starship. However, recently the progress went through a rough period, starting with the Starship's maiden voyage. Well, we're glad to see that SpaceX has been working hard on improving upon their mistakes, and the 6-month-long development since the Starship's first unsuccessful flight have been extremely productive. So much so that even Elon Musk himself had to step out and announce his joy concerning the project. So without further ado, let's check out all the new stuff that has been introduced with this massive SpaceX Starship update. Even though the April launch was initially very disheartening as it was an almost complete failure, considering the Starship exploded mid-flight, SpaceX scientists stated that the whole experience was extremely insightful and productive for them. The problems arose when Starship failed to fire up a number of its Raptor engines, which led to the rocket not achieving a good enough velocity and losing control, which is why it had to be destroyed. Plus, it's not like SpaceX doesn't regularly lose their test vehicles. SpaceX's approach to developing their launch vehicles almost always consists of a prototype gone wrong phase, because it seems to provide them with a lot of insight. The ship didn't blow up by itself either, as the destruction was actually SpaceX testing their flight termination system, which is the Starship's self-destruct system in case the vehicle fails. The Starship's first launch was a planned step in an ongoing multi-year development of the most powerful vehicle ever created, and expecting anything more than a rough start would be overestimating it, and thanks for the data that has been collected. Despite being technically successful, the launch of the Starship was still pretty rough, thanks to the fact that every quote-unquote malfunction and mishap was recorded by SpaceX. They managed to find a countermeasure for most of the unwanted side effects and develop features that will make the Starship even better than it currently is. Starting off with Water Deluge System. The newly developed water deluge system has been initially tested in late July of this year, and its purpose is to protect against the immense heat and force of the Starship's launch. The April 20th launch did a significant amount of damage to the Starbase's orbital launch mount, as it managed to leave a sizable crater beneath it. Furthermore, the sheer force managed to lift up rocks and debris, which is a major safety hazard. According to Elon Musk, who initially shared a few clips of the water deluge system in action, the new system will minimize the damage to the Starbase, making it far easier to reuse without the need of major repairs. The system consists of a reinforced steel plate that spouts water upwards, therefore acting as a counter-strike to the force that the Starship produces during liftoff. Elon jokingly compared the water deluge system to an upside-down showerhead due to the evident similarities. The water deluge system will be a key feature that will make liftoffs more economical and faster to do. It'll be crucial once starships start regularly commuting to space, as they'll allow a single launch pad to be reused multiple times. Also, the damage to the Boca Chica launch pad, which now will be much less substantial. This is due to the fact that SpaceX added 1,000 cubic meters of steel-reinforced, high-strength concrete on the launch pad's footings. This will make them much more durable than what they were in April, as they nearly completely eroded thanks to the enormous pressure and heat coming from the Raptor's engines. Next up, we've got the vented inner stage and heat shield for the booster. SpaceX has decided to change their approach significantly when it comes down to the launch and separation of the Starship itself. Instead of conventional separation methods that have been used up until now, SpaceX has decided to develop a hot stage function for the Starship. Hot stage means that the upper stage engines will ignite before the separation of the rocket itself. This will allow for a significantly gentler separation process with more control over the separation outcome. But for the hot staging to be successful, SpaceX will need to add additional shielding and venting so that the Starship doesn't blow up once again. This will be done by adding a new 2.5 meter tall vented ring that sits right on top of the original top of the Booster 9. The vent areas are very large. However, what caught our eye was the fact that there was a cone-shaped shield instead of the more usual dome. This is because SpaceX plans on using exclusively the 3 Raptor vacuum engines to kickstart the separation process, whereas the 3 inner sea-level ones will remain unused at this occasion. By shutting off most of the engines of the booster and starting the ship's own engines, SpaceX will essentially blast the booster, which means that you'll need to protect the top of the boost stage from getting incinerated and leading to the ship's destruction. Hot staging has never before been achieved by SpaceX, and by doing so, the company will significantly improve the pre-orbital part of the flight. However, hot staging isn't a radically new concept, as it has already been used on Russia's Proton rockets, and it showed how great of a potential lies in using it. And finally, we've got improved engine reliability. SpaceX needed to fix the reasons why the Starship exploded in the first place, and they did so by addressing some of the most prominent problems that were documented in April. For starters, the Raptor's gas manifold that directs superheated methane-rich gas towards the chamber has been completely redesigned. Since the high temperatures tend to create leak paths throughout the bolt holes, the manifold needed to be redesigned so it could keep up with the pressure. Plus, the bolts will also be tightened using higher torque methods, which means that they'll be much more secure and will eliminate virtually any potential bolt hole leak path. Second launch is happening soon. In the recently given IAC interview, Elon Musk announced that since SpaceX corrected all the Starship's faults, the regulators granted the company their second launch license. This means that the rocket is technically already ready for its second flight. The only thing that we're currently waiting on is SpaceX to get ready for the upcoming rerun. According to Elon, during the next attempt, the rocket itself will already go through hot staging. Also, the water deluge system will also be used to lower the damage done to the imminent environment. This means that SpaceX will be able to test out one of the key features of the new and improved Starship and Starbase. However, the reason why SpaceX still hasn't launched the Starship is exactly the hot staging process. You see, the company needs a lot of preparing, as there are multiple ways that the hot staging of the Starship might go wrong. There's a feasible risk that the rocket might spontaneously combust once the engines light up. There's also a possibility that the rocket doesn't properly separate. It might lose its balance and even get damaged, which will therefore result in a failure once again. However, if the engine lights up without the Starship blowing up, and if the rocket separates successfully, SpaceX has got a decent chance at reaching the orbit with the Starship. The upcoming second launch is extremely important for SpaceX, as it'll dictate the tempo for the company's advance towards space itself. According to Elon, if and only if the second launch proves to be successful, it will be feasible to land an uncrewed Starship on Mars in the next 4 years. So, it's in SpaceX's best interest to launch the Starship for the second time as soon as possible, as by not doing so, they'll be wasting their precious time in vain. But we still understand why he might want to wait a bit more until the Starship arises again. We won't have to wait long though, as the second launch will most likely happen sometime during the next month. Here's to SpaceX and their tireless efforts to finally break the barrier between humans and space.